1 year after the start of the Russian military operation in Ukraine, the United Nations Security Council met to discuss the Chinese proposal to end the conflict. In Nigeria, electoral authorities officially announced they are implementing security measures at voting stations for the presidential and legislative elections to be held next February the 25th. Rebels of the March 23 movement M23 on Friday morning seized control of the strategic locality of Mushaki, located in Masisi territory about 40 kilometers from Goma, capital of the North Kivu province in Northern Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Congolese army report. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, met with his wife of former Peruvian President Pedro Castillo. With him, he expressed his solidarity. In his meeting with Laila Paredes, the Mexican president denounced that Pedro Castillo was harassed by the opposition since the beginning of his mandate and described his dismissal as unjust. AMLO also called the current head of the Peruvian executive, Dina Boluarte, as a spurious president. In this way, López Obrador reiterated his support for Castillo while affirming that he will continue to demand his freedom.
We consider that it was a great injustice to have removed him from office because he was elected by the people. Furthermore, the Peruvian conservatives, who are a minority, violated the constitution since he was elected. They began to harass him. He had only been in office for a month or 2 months, and they were already asking for his removal.
In Venezuela, following its work in Syria and Turkey, the Simón Bolívar Humanitarian Task Force were awarded the Francisco de Miranda Order second class on Friday. The President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, reaffirmed the country's solidarity with the people affected by the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria from the Boyacá Hall of the Miraflores Palace. During the ceremony, the brigade, which is made up of 50 specialists, was honored, including earthquake technicians, rescue and first aid experts, firefighters, civil protection members, National Forensic Services personnel, and the K9 Canine Brigade. Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele announced on his Twitter account on Friday that first 2,000 gang members have been transferred to what has been described as the largest mega prison in the Americas. The mega prison, designed to hold up to 40,000 inmates and fitting with high-tech surveillance technology, was inaugurated by President Bukele himself in early February. The facility is located in a rural valley on the outskirts of the town of Teculuaca, some 74 kilometers southeast of San Salvador. Hundreds of police officers, security agents from the Direction of Penitentiary Centers, and soldiers reportedly participated in the transform operation. The prison was built to hold some of the just over 64,000 gang members detained so far under an exceptional regime described by Congress at Bukele's request in response to an escalation of violence that claimed the lives of 87 people in March 2022. Bolivia's Minister of Presidency, Maria Nela Prada, shared on Thursday that President Luis Arce will not approve any amnesty for people who commit crimes and add that they will be brought to justice so that impunity does not prevail. With this statement, the high official response to the threat of the civic leader of Santa Cruz, Romulo Calvo, who the day before warned President Arce said that he has until February the 25th to decree amnesty for the alleged political prisoners, among them the former governor of Santa Cruz, Fernando Camacho, who is being prosecuted for his participation in the 1920 coup d'etat. A wildfire of great proportions ranging in Pinares de Mayari in the Cuban province of Jugul has already affected more than 900 hectares. Firefighters aircrafts have joined Thursday the efforts of firefighters, members of the Forest Ranch Corps, neighbors, and the armed forces to control the blaze that started a week ago. The flames have reached Surapiloto National Park, which covers an area of more than 8,480 hectares and is considered one of the most biodiverse areas in the country, with an abundance of endemic flora and fauna. In Ecuador, the government will progressively suspend major state-owned oil transition because its pipeline is at risk to the effects of winter. Due to the winter and low temperatures that hit the South American country last Wednesday, there was a collapse of the ground that caused a fall of a bridge over the Maca River in the Amazon province of Napo. Petroecuador, a public company that extracts 78% of the total crude oil produced, said in a statement that it will implement a technical plan for the progressive shutdown of wells in the company's field located in the Amazon.
We have already been able to carry out front containment to cope with the emergency we are facing. The pipeline has been able to drain about 8,000 gallons of gasoline, and we are carrying out work to drain the crude oil. We estimate about 7 days to solve the problem we currently have with the pipeline infrastructure and also with the polyduct. In parallel, we are also working on the route of a new variant to tackle the emergency.
Let's take a very short break now, but remember you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. 1 year after Russia's military operation in Ukraine, the United Nations Security Council met on Friday on the sidelines of the Chinese proposal to end the conflict. Following the approval of Thursday of the resolution condemning the military operation by the General Assembly, the Security Council will discuss this Friday the situation on the ground, although in the instance the veto power of Russia and China makes decision-making unfavorable to the extent of the interests of the West. The permanent representative of Russia to the organization, Vasily Nemessia, recalled that since the end of 2021, Russia launched multiple diplomatic initiatives to avoid military confrontations, and these were ignored or openly rejected by his counterparts. The permanent representative of Russia to the United Nations, Vasily Nemessia, expressed his country's readiness to hold peace talks with Ukraine.
We have repeatedly said that we are ready to negotiate how the objectives of the special military operation could be implemented by peaceful means. Of course, any mechanism that will be followed in any other kind of situation, obviously we are not going to consider it. Colleagues, many times this week we have said that ending hostilities in Ukraine is not in the collective interest. As we know, they prevented the Kiev regime from making peace, and Western colleagues are delighted.
And today marks 1 full year since the Russian special military operation in Ukraine began, and first reminds that it could last for another. Initially, Russian President Vladimir Putin had planned to take control of the country in only a matter of days. However, the vast amount of fighting and resistance has sustained his plan indefinitely. The spark of the special military has countries all around the world to speak out, send support, and stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people. And just as they speak out, those countries that are helping Ukraine also sanction Russia in many ways. Today with us is political analyst Libre Sankara. Welcome to From the South.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start. 1 year ago, when the conflict broke out, Western countries imposed sanctions on Russia in hopes of shocking its economy. However, the high inflation, fuel shortages, and food supply disruptions are starting in the US and the European Union, and prompting protests demanding payments that cope with a high cost of living, all of that just 1 year after the conflict. So, how have smaller economies changed after this? What is the perspective for these small economies?
The goal of sanctions on Russia and the goal of the U.S. in general is to continue to starve the people and to punish countries that don't agree with the U.S.'s policies. And so the sanctions against Russia are also a double standard. Who is the U.S. government to talk about democracy and to talk about de-escalation when Russia was trying to have peace talks with the Ukraine before the U.S. agreed to send U.S. military aid, denying the people of the U.S. Basic needs, right? We're in a pandemic. There's a lack of affordable housing. People are asking for relief. And so sanctions on Russia is essentially using Russia as a scapegoat and other smaller countries like Cuba and Nicaragua as well. Sanctions are hybrid warfare, and Russia is one of the latest victims of the U.S. hybrid warfare against the global move towards multipolarism, which the U.S. is scared of because it doesn't put the U.S. in a position of power. It puts other developing countries in positions to change the world and to improve the conditions in their countries in a way that does not benefit U.S. imperialism.
Yeah, and one question that is kind of important is since the conflict started, Ukraine has received around $68,000 billion only from the United States in 2022. Not talk about the current year, 2023. So this year that has increased and is expected to increase even more the money that the U.S. is sending to Ukraine as aid. How could the Ukrainian state pay all the borrowed money knowing that is a huge quantity?
I think if we simply look at history, we can see that this is the way that the U.S. functions. They put countries in debt, right? Zelensky is asking every country to send support to the Ukrainian people because they are against Russia, and the U.S. has had a war on Russia since the 19th century. And so all this money that the U.S. government is finding to fund this war, it speaks to many issues in the U.S. We should not be sending billions of dollars to the Ukraine when, again, people in the U.S. are finding it hard to find accessibility for food, accessibility for housing, get access to education. So the U.S. government is ignoring working class people in the U.S. and instead funding a proxy war against Russia and also their manufacturing consent from the general U.S. public. There has always been Russophobia and this fear of big bad Russia for people in the U.S. when the reality is that Russia is not our enemy. It's not Russia who stopped us from being able to address COVID-19. It's not Russia that is raising the price of rent in the U.S. It's not Russia that is killing people using their police. That is the U.S. government. The U.S. We have to be very clear in the U.S. that our main enemy is the U.S. government, because it is the U.S. government's responsibility to take care of its citizens. And instead of doing that, it is going to other countries and creating war. It is sending military aid when it could be providing much needed things for working class people in the U.S. And that's why next month, on the 20th anniversary of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, Diaspora Palante Collective, Answer Coalition, Code Pink, the People's Forum are going to host a Peace in Ukraine rally because we need an anti-war movement in the U.S. There are far better things that we could be doing with our money. And we also know that the U.S., again, is going to use this debt against Ukraine after Zelensky is gone, because Zelensky is not gonna stay in power. The U.S. is going to try to manipulate that debt to keep Ukraine crippled. And why does this benefit the U.S.? We also, because we have to keep in mind, Ukraine in Europe has some of the most arable land, some of the most accessible access to resources, and that is something that the U.S. wants access to.
Yeah.
And also, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm agreeing with you. That's really true, because there's something that the U.S. is ignoring for their own people, giving their own money to other country in a conflict that is not is there actually. So they are giving their own money to other things and not their own problems. Is that they have a lot of people unemployed. They had a lot of people that is homeless. They have a lot of homeless. They can do something better. But it's true. The Ukrainian lands have something that could pay that debt. That could pay that debt because the U.S. wanted. It's not for free, this help that they are given. And the last question for this is, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky declared that a victory is inevitable when you have NATO and the European Union on your side. But Ukraine has not won yet. Having those allies has not won already with that many armies and with that many equipment, because it's not a lie that worldwide Ukraine was helped, but Russia is on itself. It's alone in this fight. How do you think, or how could Ukraine change this lag for this special military operation? How could it do it? How could it change the situation here, their position? And has Russia achieved this Nazification? They did it, or they have done that Nazification?
So, in terms of denazification, we have to keep a few things in mind, and for people to have a little bit of understanding. A few days ago, something happened in the Ukraine that was not happening prior to 2014, when the U.S. helped to fund the coup of a democratically elected government in the Ukraine. And that is that they celebrated an individual by the name of Stefan Banderas. This is an individual that helped to spread the Nazification and helped to kind of amplify this increased love for Nazification and white supremacy in the Ukraine specifically. Now he is being viewed as a national hero, and that is something that is very, very dangerous, because what we see happening in the Ukraine now is that there are people between white supremacy and Nazism that it is becoming more socially acceptable to have these ideologies, and then those people are being armed to help to fight in this proxy war that the U.S. is helping to fund. And so what we have happening in the Ukraine is that we see the Azaz Battalion, which up until last year was considered a terrorist organization by the U.S. government. It was taken off of that list, but it's considered a terrorist organization because they wear swastikas. They are openly fans of Hitler, and they openly support Nazism. And these are individuals that are now getting funding from the US government, that are getting support from the Ukrainian government to continue to fight. And this is horrible because, again, the US is trying to make it seem as if Russia is the bad person. But when NATO continues to expand and continues to block Russia in and make strategic partnerships with countries all around Russia, of course Russia is going to respond. And so Russia has already tried to have peace talks, and we need to continue to paint that narrative. In this instance, Russia is not our enemy, and we have to stop funding military aid to the Ukraine so that we can create the conditions for peace talks, which is necessary. We need to end all U.S. wars.
Yeah, thank you very much for being with us in this interview. And we have more news coming up after the financial break, so don't go away. Welcome back. In Nigeria, armed police will patrol outside polling stations to ensure the safety of voters during Saturday's general and presidential elections, declared the Inspector General of the Police, Usama Kaliki Baba, declared at a press conference. Ahead of the February 25th polls, local fact-checkers in Nigeria band together to combat the flood of misinformation circulating online about a major candidate and the electoral process. The number of active social media users in Nigeria has increased from 27 million in 2019 to 36 million in 2023, according to the Abuja-based Center of Democracy and Development.
For that reason, we have also made arrangements for armed patrols, armed TOD points near polling stations and collation centers to look at the issue of making the place conducive for law-abiding citizens to come out. We have also made arrangements to activities of terrorists, bandits, and secessionists and self-actualization elements, popularly known as IPOB or ECL, still remains a challenge. Patronage and deployment of subnational party security organizations by state actors to advance political interests remain in violation of the Political Act is still a challenge. However, I have issued directives that no party security organization is to be involved in policing the electoral process.
On the eve of the presidential elections, Nigerians are still cleaning up for cash. Among other issues, the country has been struggling with an scarcity of cash after the central bank ordered all Naira currency notes to be replaced by new bills to curb corruption and inflation.
Yes, it's supposed to affect the way I should be voting by tomorrow. But because I am already, like I've made up my mind that I just want a government that works, a government that is compassionate, a government that you can look back and then you don't have fear for the future, for the younger ones. So that's why I'm going to be determined, whatever is going to take me, wherever I will have to trek to ensure that I cast my vote, I'll definitely do that.
I've been here since 4-5 hours now to queue for cash, and to get the little money which the ATM is paying 10,000 per person. There's a lot of queue, and I'm to go for election to my state in Delta today to cast my vote for a change, for a better government tomorrow.
On Friday, rebels of the March 23 movement took control of the strategic town of Mushaki, located in the territory of Masisi Democratic Republic of the Congo. According to the Congolese military spokesman, Julian Nenjike, the army is committed to putting an end to these aggressions by the M23. The Congolese army has been clashing with the M23 for more than 3 days. The rebels have also taken control of several other villages alongside the road leading to Goma. The intensified fightings lasting for several months in the Masisi territory have already displaced thousands of people to find refuge in the internally displaced person side of Belongo in the outskirts of Goma. A group of armed men attacked a village in the central Mali. 13 civilians were killed. Local policemen stated that armed men killed 13 civilians and burned homes in the villages of Kanibonso on Thursday. They add that the death toll could be as high as 20 and residents were afraid of returning home. The group killed more than 13 civilians, torched buildings, and took away 3 people. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also use us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.